come from places. I mean, the classic example, of course, is Kayi, emigrating from the north, that there's very little disposable cash sloshing around. They might have access to food, they may be fed, but money to do things, money, capital to start businesses, whether that's a small business or whether it's a big startup enterprise, is hard to come by. So they feel, well, I'm a young person, if I go to the city, the big city, and hustle, I'll be able to get some coins and send them back to the family. They become the breadwinners of their families. And that happens in virtually every country. I mean, the capital will always be a draw because it's the seat of government usually. I mean, you have a few unusual examples, say on the coast of West Africa, both in Cote d'Ivoire next door and in Nigeria, where they have historical capitals that are now the commercial capital, still much bigger than the new official capitals. Abuja, of course, in the case of Nigeria, Yamoussoukro. Do you know anybody who lives in Yamoussoukro? I mean,
no.
You know, it must be full of government officials, but there's no kind of life or sense of business, sense of a cultural life, which is what the young man, I think, was referring to there about it's not boring. No, all the musicians are here, all the record producers are here. When there's a launch, it's happening here. And the question, as you said, is how you develop the other cities, either by devolving government or by them developing their own sort of attraction and their local expertise or their unique draw that takes people to them. But they have to be livable. Otherwise, they will always be only cities that people want to go and visit and then return to the base where everything is sucked in. And that gets to the point where the sucking in becomes so much, it just becomes consuming everything in the rest of the country.
A very interesting perspective. We'll be hearing more from our guests who are in the studio, the acting executive director for the Ghana Real Estate Developers Association, the indefatigable Samuel Amagaibo. We'll also be talking to the Media Pass president for Planners Association of Ghana, Al Hassan Mohammed, and we'll talk to Dr. Hayford Mensah Ayirakwa, who's a development economist, and a young man who's an optician and health promotion officer, Akpo Hospital, Jeremiah John Aka, who'll be sharing his lived reality with us. But before that, let's take you to a couple more voices and perspectives across the country. So now we've got Tamale and then we've got Kumasi.
Is the cost of living. Currently, the cost of living is very high. You go to the market, things that you used to buy a bag of rice, example, 300 Ghana cedi. Now it's up to 600 Ghana cedi. Definitely, it will affect your budget, and which also have a negative impact in your salary. It will definitely affect the salary too. So cost of living, and then the increase of tariffs. Was it last 2 months or last month that they've increased the tariffs? Tariffs too. The electricity bills, the water, and other utility bills. In fact, it keep on increasing, and all these are the factors, or all these are the reasons why our salary right now is not sustaining. Immediately you get it, the salary, and you have to take care of all these things, it will not be able to last within a short period. Within some number of days, it will vanish, and it will look as if you didn't use it for anything. Meanwhile, is the cost of living, that the increase of tariffs. So these are the factors, or these are some of the things that is raining some of our salaries. Immediately we have it.
I'm a salary earner, which I receive my salary monthly. But then a lot of factors that are draining down my salary includes transportation. Sometimes taking transport to work and back takes more than how I spend on even food. Imagine me taking transport almost 25 cedis a day and in and then coming back. Sometimes you get a straight car, which I will be paying about 15 cedis, and I'm an HND holder, and an HND holder in this economy. You can imagine my salary. It really drains my salary. And secondly, utility bills. Before you could even receive your salary, when you talk of your utility bills, it drains my salary a lot. How more or less feeding. Oh, seriously. How the economy is, feeding has become one of the factors that drains my salary. Because of that, I don't even take 3 square meal. Sometimes I just have to bundle in the morning, take some heavy banku in the morning so that I will pass by. Then maybe evening time I'll get something like porridge or tea. So actually it's really draining my salary. These 3 factors are really draining my salary.
ABS, Asaase Breakfast Show.
Here we are in Tamale. Personally, I would talk about my experience with most expensive things. There are just two. I talk about food and then fuel. To begin with food, it's comparing food now and then the last 2 years. We had drought, and then food costed a bit higher than it is today. But then, notwithstanding that we are experiencing a bit of reduction, it's still high. We would look forward to see if we can get further reductions to make life more comfortable. And talk about fuel. In the previous administrations, we never had a break. Every day we are having increase. I mean, every time we are to see fuel prices is rather going up. And compared to currently that we are having a couple of drops, which we are still urging whoever is in charge to help us with the reduction, at least to assimilate life a little bit more. Just these two things. And then
so yes, what's consumed my money most? It's let me say food, feeding. Yeah. Food, because I tell you, you go to the market and then you can't even buy things. Things in the market keep on increasing, especially Tamale here. Today you buy something 5 cedis, tomorrow you go, it's no more 5 cedis, it's 7 cedis or even 8 cedis. Some goes as high as 10 cedis. So food is number one thing that's consume my money most, and considering the fact that I'm also a student and sometimes I'm on campus, you are not in the house, you have to buy food. You buy a plate of food like 35 cedis, it's not even enough. Later you have to buy again, and when you're in the house too, you have to buy food items and cook and other stuff. So yes, feeding is my number one thing that's consume most of my money. And the second thing, let me say transportation. As I indicated, I'm a student, so I have to pick 2 yellow as we call it down here, like 2 of it before I get to my campus. And the transportation too is not easy. Drivers will keep on complaining of fuel, so they keep on increasing. Just recently, like the directive that was given to drivers to reduce fare, my area, for instance, hasn't reduced and we are still paying the same fare. So I pick Yellow from my area to town. I have to pay 7 cedis, and then I proceed to campus. I have to pay additional 5 cedis and coming back. So you can imagine how much I spend a day. And sometimes from campus, I have to go to other places. So you can imagine how much I spend on day. So to me, the 2 most important things, the 2 things that consume most of my money or chunk of my money goes to is to food and then transportation.
Wow. Well, these are the matters before us. So it seems that based on the Vox pop we've heard, transportation and food is up there. Now, based on polls that we conducted on Facebook and on X, here are the results. Let's see if it reminds you of anything you've heard this morning. So the very, very, very first one is from Nanaya. Something just happened to me. Found it. So we asked a question on Facebook: which expense takes the biggest chunk of your income? There were options from clothing, transportation, food, and rent. On Facebook, rent led the way, followed by food. Incidentally, nobody talked about rent in the voices we heard.
No.
Oh, yeah, there was one. Oh, no. Nobody talked about rent. Everyone's talking about transportation and food.
I think there was one Accra person who mentioned it in passing.
True. Okay. So rent led on Facebook. On X, rent was beating by food. So it was food at 45% of the votes, and 39% of the votes went to rent. Clothing had 1%, and transportation had 15%. It's interesting.
What does this mean? That our Facebook people are more foodian than our ex?
I think they might be friends of Fritz.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they might be friends of Fritz, and so they spend more money on. Actually, no. Is the Twitter, the X folk
Is the ex
who are
more foodian?
which and I'm inclined to believe so. Yes, because Fritz is a
He's an enthusiast. Yes.
The Twitteratis who are all Gen Zs and millennials. But let me say good morning to our friends who are in the studio with us. And I'm going to start with Jeremiah Jonaka, who is going to be sharing his lived experience with us. Jeremiah, welcome.
Thank you.
And to Sami Amagaibo, acting executive director at Greta. Morning.
Good morning.
And Dr. Hayford Ayorakwa is joining us on Zoom. Good morning to you. Okay. But in the studio is Al Hassan Mohammed, is the immediate past president of Planners Association of Ghana. Welcome.
Thank you.
So I want to start first with a quick straw poll in the studio. What do you spend most of your money on?
Food.
Food? Okay. How about you, Sammy?
For me, also food. From the three.
From the three,
yes,
it's food. Okay. How about you?
Life to me is food.
Okay.
Interesting.
All right. Is it in terms of when you say food, does it cost more to buy food now compared to previous times, or is just the sheer volume that you normally would buy?
You see, one thing about food is that food is something that you can't do away without. It's something that is essential to living. Let's assume moving from Accra to Tema. By the time you are done with the traffic and you get to the destination, the glucose or the energy in you are way gone. So you need something to subsidize it. And sometimes the workload that comes on you, by the time you realize in the afternoon you want to buy maybe a snack or maybe something, and that want to take the money. Sometimes you are stuck in the traffic and looking at the heat, you are compelled to buy something like an ice cream or something just to aid you through the traffic that you are just in it. By the time you get home, you have to make sure that the kids have eaten, your wife is there is food on the table. So food is one key thing that takes money from us. So for me, it's the food.
Wow. Now, that's a very interesting perspective. And until this morning, I had never heard the expression bundling food. I thought you bundle internet data. But now you bundle food. So you eat one heavy meal in the morning. That's 100. Or someone says you do a 001 or 010. Very interesting times. But, I mean, let's talk about the urban and draw. Most people we spoke to are in urban areas. So, Ho, Kumasi, Cape Coast, Takoradi, Tamale, Sunyani. Why do you think that it's more expensive in the urban areas?
Thank you. I would want to make a little correction. It's Ghana Institute of Planning.
Oh, please forgive me.
Right.
Ghana Institute of Planning.
Yes.
I will not sin against you again.
So what's happening is an urbanization phenomenon where you have a lot of people drawn into the urban spaces,
right?
Especially the cities. And this is because all the allure is here, all the major investments, all the FDIs. If you check the data, 80% concentrated between Accra, Kumasi, Takoradi, not even Tamale. And so all the opportunities, the innovations, the jobs that spin out of all these investments are concentrated in this area. And so everybody is drawn here. The last data I checked indicated Accra. I mean, when I say Accra, not AMA, I mean the Greater
Accra
metropolitan
okay.
space. Roughly constitutes about 2% of Ghana's land space, but it contains 20% of Ghana's population. Wow. So this is this is just
please,
yes.
Just for those who
That's
you know, you drew a reaction from all of us, but it's a very, very scary number.
That's right.
The Greater Accra metropolitan area,
yeah, that's right,
is 2% land size.
That's right.
In comparison to the entire country, but 20% of the population
of Ghana
lives in this space.
In this space.
So if we do the estimate at 38 million, we're looking at 7.6 million people.
Well, that's about 5.8 million.
My math is dodgy.
Where? Yeah.
No. If I worked with 38 million,
okay, that's fine.
Then it would be just above 7. It would be 7.6.
Right, yes. So it's that large.
But so you're looking at least 5.6 to 7.8 being the range,
right.
Because we never know.
Now, so you have this concentration here competing for all the services, infrastructure, and the climate conditions that we have to share. And so there's no doubt that you have these heavy expense having to be endured by residents. But this is further worsened by the fact that we do not have value for these expenses. So you spoke about transportation. If you were paying that much to have convenient, comfortable, and safe transport from wherever you are coming from, then it wouldn't be a bother. But you still have to endure the long hours. You still have to endure part of your clothes getting torn, depending on which. I mean, if you're using some of the trotros, which happened to me before, and so on and so forth. And so this is the challenge. There's a report to be launched on the 4th, just on the 4th, by the World Bank.
Okay.
And I gleaned through and observed that there's a finding saying some of the secondary cities with the highest growth potentials are Bolga, Wa, Tamale, Techiman, Sunyani, Denu, and Ho.
Okay.
And so if we want to reduce the pressure, it may be necessary to take a second look at strategic investments in these areas in a way that can help hold some of these population concentrations away from Accra.
Okay, so Tamale, Bolga, Wa,
Techiman,
Sunyani, Denu, and Ho.
Okay, right. That's right.
All right.
And so that is the conversation. It does make sense that we take some of the good roads there, we take some of the FDIs there, we take some of all the opportunities, the good schools and so on and so forth. That's right.
All right. If you just joined us, we are having a big conversation here on the Asaase Breakfast Show. And we're asking the question, I mean, if our cities are too expensive or becoming more and more expensive, why are we still here? How do we navigate this maze of a concrete jungle that's increasingly expensive to live in? Sami Amegaibo is the acting executive director for the Ghana Real Estate Developers Association. This is the association of men and women who've decided that they will make a living building homes for you and I. Some people said rent was one of their topmost expenditure. In both our online polls, somehow rent was not the top. In the it was top on Facebook, but not on Twitter or X. I still can't remember. What, yeah, Twitter.
Still Twitter.
Yeah, it's still Twitter. It still has a bird.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you see the market? What's the implication of these insights from a real estate developer's perspective?
Okay, thank you for the opportunity, and I think my brother here has given us some background to this urbanization drift. But I think the nation, or most nations, are saddled with two issues: idealistic and reality. What is the ideal situation? If everything falls into place, how will the cost of rent, how will the cost of food affect? And then you say that if everything is ideal, then there shouldn't be a problem, because there will be apportioning and allocation of the resources to cater for each of the situations that we have. But I think we are faced with the reality, the realities of life, the realities of what is happening around us. And the realities doesn't give us that room to even plan properly, to think properly, and to allocate properly. And that is why you are having this diversity in the pools. And so when I was listening to it, I said, well, who are the people who spend their time on Twitter? Is it the elite? The elite will not have issues with accommodation and rent because they are secured and they can take care of that. And is it that the other people on Facebook are not the elite? And so in that case, they have more issues to deal with, the daily living. And so they are confronted much more with the issue of rent. And so that's why there's this disparity in the...
So it's a demographic issue. Okay.
Demographic issue. And even right in this studio, you asked the three of us, and all of us went for food.
True.
Why are we saying so? I am not saddled with accommodation. I'm sure Mohammed, from his background, has not had accommodation issue.
Well, mine is paid up for at least for a year, right?
So sometimes you forget about it.
Exactly. But if you were striking an average, we focus more on the daily stuff.
Exactly.
And so for me, yes, food and transportation rank high.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think these are some of the dynamics when it comes to this consideration. But for food, it cuts across. And we live in a society where family extensions, people live in houses that is heavy. You be a couple, you might be alone, but you are taking care of 7 people, 8 people. You understand? So the issue of food is what is for me eating most of the income, and the incomes too low. So for the developer, we are trying on our best to provide accommodation. But if you find where we provide our accommodation, for example, we are not touching the real problem. The real need of accommodation in Ghana is in the lower income level. And it is not that the developers don't want to touch it. It is just that the environment in which we work does not make it conducive to tackle that side, even though we have a considerable number of our developers trying to provide housing in the lower level. And so even the lower level, you find out how much is lower level.
I was going to ask you, is there any lower level? Because when I see the ones they say affordable, now when I look at it, it is not affordable to me. And I'm an average Ghanaian. So
irrespective of that situation, we still have the classes of the society, and accommodation are provided for all the classes. It's just that majority of Ghanaians cannot afford the lowest property that the developer provides on the market based on what it is. However, I also want to believe that since owning a property is relative, renting property is also relative, and so your circumstances will sort of determine what kind of accommodation you look for, whether rental or owning. However, if we want to apportion a percentage of your monthly income or your annual income for any form of accommodation, either owning or rental, I sincerely believe that it must not cross 30%, and that it must fit between 20 to 30% of your income. If you spend anything more than that, you are doomed. And you need to really look at your situation and look for what you want. Sometimes people also get it wrong. You look at your circumstances, you don't fit in a particular space, but you want to enter that space. People come here, they say, hey, you guys, you have a crazy house, you are buying a property in Cantonment for $1 million, $2 million. My brother, I was in Manhattan, and I was shown a 2-bedroom apartment for $4 million.
2 bedrooms?
2-bedroom apartment.
In Manhattan? Not a house, apartment.
No. Apartment.
$4 million.
$4 million.
Nah, you.
And that is not what we are playing here. So I always tell people that every country has its Manhattans. And so you don't go there and go and sit there and complain. You need to fit where you can fit in and make the necessary adjustment to afford what you can afford. And so I think people get it always wrong. You want to live in Cantonment, they want to live in Laboni, they want to live in Nadenta, and then you show him an accommodation which is just a little office. Hey, I had the wadodo. I had the the typical Ghanaian wants an accommodation. You are trying to fix him some. You fix him, you call it affordable. You do all the basic features for him to make it livable. When we say livable, it means that all that you need in an accommodation is available. Just that it's not a luxury. This person buys that house. The next 2 months, you see him removing everything. He takes off the window, he cracks the floor, he changes the kitchen. Are we really looking for affordable houses? So sometimes these are the realities. So it also tells you that where we get our income from influences a lot of things. A lot of people, mainstream income, if you follow that mainstream income, your salary, you realize that most people will not even qualify for mortgages to own properties. However, they have other means of income. What we call pakpakpa, you don't know how to put it.
The grace of God.
Yeah. Pakpakpa, so they make so much money somewhere that you cannot put it, and then the system doesn't allow those incomes to be used to sort of calculate your affordability ratio so you can be given a decent accommodation. So we need as a nation to look at all these details to see how best we can solve our problem. And then we also don't have, I think, regulation and compliance.
Okay.
People don't get it, but if we don't have regulation, costs can go out of gear. Look at what is happening now. By the grace of God, our economic managers or the world, whatever, is giving us some gains in our cedi dollar exchange relationship.
That's right.
Go out there to the market. What is the behavior of the Ghanaian when an opportunity has come to make it better for all Ghanaians to benefit from what we have gained? Vis-a-vis how long we have suffered up to today. The typical Ghanaian says that because I now find myself in a position where I can make gains to hell with everybody else who is in problem. And I want to amass wealth to myself. And the rest of us, let's go to hell. These are some of the things that are causing the hardship that the entire nation is facing. And that I believe that if we put our mind to all these things, regulation, systems in place, the behavior of the people, everybody holds everybody, we all hold ourselves together.
Okay.
I think it will go a long way to help us.
Very great perspectives. Let me ask Jeremiah at this point. Jeremiah, share with us, a sense of your monthly expense.
Okay, so before I move on to that, I want to add something to what our brother said concerning Greater Accra being clouded. Greater Accra is being clouded because all fingers, based on the videos, the video visuals, everything points to Greater Accra. Let me use Kumawood as an example. If you watch any Kumawood movie, before somebody can make it, unless the person travels to Accra in the movie.
That's an interesting point.
Yes, everybody travels to Accra to make it. Like some years back, you see everybody traveling to Agege. So you have a lot of Ghanaians migrating to Nigeria just to go and make it. The same situation we find it today. Everybody, both the Chi movies and the English movies, all point to Greater Accra. That when you move to Greater Accra, but the person returns back to the village, the person comes with a car, a lot of cash. So there is that imprint perception in our minds that when you get to Greater Accra, the chance of making it is high. So every person wants to get to Greater Accra. And when you get to Greater, that's where the realities dawn on you. So mostly takes people by surprise. And they end up sleeping on the street and other things, putting certain pressures on them. Like my senior brother said that most of us don't fit within the space in which we are operating, but situations have compelled us, or maybe willingly we have forced ourselves to be within that space. So now coming to your question, let's assume the average youth within Ghana takes a salary of 3,500 Ghana cedis. And that 3,500 Ghana cedis, if you are to break it down, the person is being paid each day, let's say 150 Ghana cedis. And that 150 Ghana, if you break it into an hour, that is 18 cedis, 50 pesos. That is the money the average Ghanaian is being paid per hour. So when you compare the indicators from other places, you realize that somebody is being paid $20 per hour. Somebody is paying this amount per hour. So you look at yourself, and even with that one, demotivate you. That one alone demotivates you. So it's like, even if you are being paid 5,000 Ghana cedis, because you are demotivated, because the expenses that you are finding yourself within doesn't even make the money enough for you. Because you wake up in the morning, now whether you like it or yes, you buy data. Because data has become a daily routine part of us. Because most of our workplaces now don't print things again. They have their WhatsApp platform, their Telegram platform that they share on it. Now we have online meetings and other things. So now whether you like it or yes, you buy data. And in Ghana, data is very expensive. Data is very expensive. You can buy a data for, let's say, 20 gig, which is 95 Ghana cedis. Depending on the work you are doing, that 20 gig can go down the drain within a day. So all these things amount to it. And most of the people within Greater Accra owns a car. And those that do not own a car too, because of the traffic, the way the transportation issues are, the bus will stop and the bus will not be moving. There will be those quarrels and other things. So people are also forced to get a car so that they can have their comfort and get to work on time, so that their bosses will not have issues with them. And that comes in with fuel. Fuel also drains the money. So the 3,500 Ghana cedis that the average Ghanaian is taking, first of all, food is draining you. Data is draining you. And before food and data, there are other social interventions that also drains the average Ghanaian, which is families, the external families. Now, there's somebody living in Accra, because the family knows that he's in Accra, there's that assumption that since you are in Accra, then you are making it. So automatically, at the end of the month, there is some portion of your money that you need to send home. So the moment is 25th or 22nd coming, the cost start coming. So there is these pressures. And if you send 50 cedis or 100 cedis, they don't appreciate it. They don't appreciate. But meanwhile, the person living here, before the salary drops in on the 25th, by 1st of the following month, that money is gone. So sometimes I wonder how we are able to survive within Greater Accra, because these are the realities. The transportation you are paying, let's say from Accra to Tema, you are paying in and out 25 Ghana cedis. Then you have 25 Ghana cedis, deduct it from that 150 cedis you are making a day. Add food 25 Ghana cedis. That is, let's add food 70 cedis. Out to that 25 cedis. How many remaining?
Wow.
You buy data. And as you are buying data, there are other things that within the day you might purchase. Let's say you get to the home, your bulb is off. You have to buy it. Maybe you are working, your extension get blown. You have to buy it. So there are other sunk costs that you can calculate that also drains the average Ghanaians. So I believe that there should be that national policy that will look at how the average Ghanaian can resonate with how the economy is. If not that, we will spin within one circle, but we can never achieve the target in which we are, because day in and day out, the population of Greater Accra is increasing.
Yeah,
it's increasing, and we can't change unless the other regions have been established so well that people will now have confidence in selling or marketing within those areas. But everybody thinks that when you get to Greater Accra, you are close to the presidency. You are close to the areas. And funny enough, those living in Greater Accra is even better. When you get to Tema, where the industries are, then the reality of cost of living will dawn on you.
Explain. How so?
Yes, so assuming you are living within Tema, an enclave like around Punkatama, so within that, you see there are a lot of industries there. So there are foreigners there, the Nigerians, the Lebanese, the Indians, and other things. So when it comes to rent, you, the average Ghanaian, if they put 500 cedis on it and you are not renting, that person can pay 1,500 Ghana cedis to rent it. So it gives an advantage to the land, to the house owners, because if they put that amount of, you cannot rent, but these companies are ready to rent it for their workers. So you are forced to be within that bracket in which you find it difficult, because you can't pay for it, but somebody is ready to pay for it.
Wow. You know, let me bring in development economist Hayford Ayiraka into the conversation. Hayford, I hope you can hear us, and say hi if you're there.
Hi, I can hear you.
Fantastic. Great. Now, Hayford, I mean, you've been listening to this conversation, and I was saving you for last for a reason. See, even with all these rising costs and the perspective shared so far, people are still flocking into the urban centers, Accra being an example. What is it, in your estimation, accounts for this pool?
Well, so thank you very much. Primarily, people would move to urban centers, and I assure in the report that was released. I worked as part of my PhD work many years ago, looking at emerging cities in Ghana. And Techiman at the time, nearly 10 years ago, Techiman was one of the cities that was really becoming a city to look out for. And so in 10 years, I'm sure things might have doubled by now, and same as Tamale. And so the primary reason why anybody would want to move to such areas is opportunities. And when we say opportunity, we are talking primarily economic opportunity. Whenever people perceive that there is some innate economic opportunity that one stands to gain, they would necessarily make efforts to go. And so they don't really care. People move in. I mean, that's the extreme end. Whether they have a place to lay their head or not, once it is Accra, we'll figure it out. We say, come and hustle. By the end of the day, you will still find your head above waters. And again, colleagues on the show have mentioned that a lot of young people, a lot of persons within the economically active population are looking for opportunities, and these opportunities are primarily economic opportunities. And these are all concentrated, not even in all the urban areas across the country. It is biased towards Accra, Kumasi, and these days Takoradi. And you go to Tamale, and there are not too many opportunities there. So a lot of the young people who would emerge and have some skills, some competencies, and perceive to have, opportunities within the urban settlement would not see Tamale as a place where they can find that hope. And so would want to either move down south, where a lot of the opportunities have been concentrated. But it is also the way we have been socialized. It's the way we have been trained. It's the way we train our students. We are still training people to see opportunities to be when you can find a formal employment, where you can actually wear a beautiful shirt or a dress and walk to work and say, Mekwabo, yes, I'm back. My son works with this organization. And that mindset continue to shape why people act in a certain way. But I must also add that there is some effort that has gone on in the past few years, and I'm seeing a lot of very encouraging trends where young people are beginning to take their future into their own hands. People are beginning to fold their sleeves and are beginning to look for opportunities outside of the cities. That, for me, is the future, and how and what we should be focusing our efforts in supporting such young people to be able to see new opportunities outside of the urban space. When we do that, we are able to begin to look at things from ways that can create jobs beyond what we see, and that will free up some space within the urban centers. And I agree very much with what colleagues have shared in terms of housing, your own poll, which is showing that transport is a major thing. And I have always been pushing, even with employers, that why do you still, in this day and age, do you want to bring all your staff to come under a roof? Everybody plugs their computers, everybody, is using their air condition. And at the end of the day, its productivity levels are low because the person is living at Oyibi Kasua and will have to travel 2.5, sometimes 3 hours to come to the office. I mean, they may have the desire to work, but you ask yourself, how much of that can they actually give back to the organization? So you are actually increasing your cost of production. I think that for organizations that it is possible, they should begin to look at, meeting their employees halfway. You don't necessarily have to do 5 days a week in the office. That is expensive. I have colleagues who have decided to run purely remotely. And then once in a month, you have some sort of management engagement in the office. It has really cut down cost of running those firms, those businesses, and your utility bills are down, and staff are able to find a bit more time to do the things that they have been hired to do. What that also means is that they are able to save money on their own transport. They are able to make very good use of time, and they have some extra time on their hands, and they are able to also commit this time to doing other things that bring in additional resources to them. And so you see that at the end of the day, you're actually getting a win-win situation from your employees. That is something that I think we should begin. Even if your employer is not bringing that to the table, as an employee, you should be able to raise these conversations and speak with your employer to see how you can actually cut down on some of these costs. I have also heard from your poll and the conversation on housing. I think one of the biggest challenge we have in this country, yes, maybe housing is not coming strongly in your poll because you know how it is. Landlords pay up, they demand rent upfront. And so it's usually front loaded. So they take the money, they take their savings and pay for rent. And then the rest, we hassle for the other things until such a time when the rent is almost due. I think that has always been a mistake. And elsewhere, nobody takes rent. In fact, I remember when I first had to pay rent outside the country, I was hoping with a Ghanaian mindset, I had prepared to go and pay my 1 year rent advance. But the rent company said, no, we cannot take that. We can only take your rent on a monthly basis. And so I had to find a way of lodging this money in an account where I can make this payment. I think the same concept is what we should, and I've been encouraging some of my friends to look at. Once you are able to do that upfront payment, make a conscious effort to monthly pay rent. And so that can go into a dedicated account or an investment that every month you take your 3,500 cedis as your salary. Your rent is 500 cedis. Don't think that because you have paid rent for 1 year, you have 12 months to relax. You don't have 12 months because 12 months will soon come and you have to now begin to scratch your head and find resources. Put in that 500 cedis every month, paid. That takes away some burden off you. If you like, you can actually make an adjustment of 10-20% and begin to make that monthly payment. So at the end of the period, when your landlord is showing up to say your rent will be due in 3 months, you already know that you have some savings dedicated to such purpose. I think that is something that we should begin to look at. Now look, today, when you go onto the road, I live in Adenta area. Almost every car, you count 10 private cars that are on the road. The likelihood is that 8, 9 out of these 10 cars are just being ridden by one person. It's just one person that is in a car. And so the roads are choked with several cars that are carrying just one passenger at a time. And some of these people, we know them. Some of these people, they live in areas. We have colleagues who live in the same area, and yet everybody wants to drive their car because, yes, we need to show that we have bought some nice, beautiful car. I think it is nice to have a car, but we should begin to look at carpooling because our public transport system is not helping. That is something that I think we should begin to look at. Carpooling, if you work in similar area, we should be able to say that this week we are going with Rainmaker, we are doing with your car, and we are going to go. The following week, we'll go with Nanaya's car because we live in the same area. And that saves us money. That saves us, the pressure we put on our own roads. And at the end of the day, we are able to really have some relaxed setting within the urban area. But I think in the long term, we need to also fix the systemic issues. The public transport problem that we have is still a problem. And your colleague, the gentleman in the studio is right. You pick a trotro and you should be extra careful not to turn your dress or your apron. And that is a problem. Government and some of these things cannot just be a government responsibility. I think we've gotten to the point where we should be looking at PPP, public-private
partnerships. Yeah,
exactly. We should have such. And so if it is rail line we think, or the trams that we think we should have to build in our cities to ease the pressure, government cannot do it. Because in other words, we have seen that government handling some of these things have not brought the efficiency we require. And so can we get private sector to lead this, and with some supervision from government, just so that the profiteering parts of the private sector will be managed to some extent, so that the broader Ghanaian populace are able to benefit from it. So I think there are a lot of things we have been talking about many years now. We should begin to look at it. But Remeka, let me end with this. I think that we should look at opportunities for young people who want to really venture into production, value addition, which requires that they can actually set up outside of urban areas, in the remote areas. What kind of tax incentives are we giving them? What kind of hand-holding are we providing for these people? What markets, opportunities are we creating? It should be a food system, for example, approach. It's not just about, saying that, somebody wants to go into farming, and so let's go and support them with input. If we do that, you are not addressing any problem. It should be a food systems approach. So from production to consumption, there's so much that happens in between. And oftentimes, government places so much emphasis at the production end, leaving the other chain. And that is where the problem is. And so if people are we're encouraging young people to consider certain aspects of the agricultural value chain, that is a great thing. But let us also pay attention to the entire food systems that allows us to be able to, we know that right from production to, distribution to processing to consumption, we are taking care of these processes, and that would help quite a number of people.
Hayford, great insights as always, but please stay with us. Don't go just yet. We're going to get into, and I like that your submission jumped straight into rethinking some of the problems and proffering some solutions. Let me talk to, at this point, Al-Hassan. Al-Hassan, you are a planning specialist. Okay. Can we build competitive cities? You mentioned that there's a study that's just been published that shows that there's potential in Tamale, Bolga, Wa, Techiman, Sunyani, Denu, Ho. Somehow I didn't see anything in the central region or the western region or the rest of the eastern region. But of course, can we start, what would it take rather for these places to compete with Accra, Kumasi and Takrady for jobs?
Right. Fundamentally, we need to identify their comparative advantages and set up the appropriate production systems that is required. And once you produce, you do logistics, warehousing, marketing, transportation. All of these collectively create jobs. And once the jobs are there, then housing follows. People need houses. People need to take their kids to school, and people need to go to the pub to wind down, and so on and so forth. And so you have all these spin-offs creating the economies that would be enticing enough to people to want to stay in these places. Let me say that the blueprints, which most people do not know about because they are not disseminated enough, for Ghana, we have the National Spatial Development Framework, which is a framework that outlines how the space of Ghana should be used. And when I say the space of Ghana, I'm not talking of just the landmass. It also includes even the marine space, because it's all part of Ghana's space. Let me come land side. The upper east, upper west, where you have population density so low, have been earmarked, because they have a lot of land for agriculture, for specific agric production potentials.
Okay.
But it's also been determined that because the markets are not there, you need to hail some of these from these places to, let's say, the Tama Port for export.
Okay.
They cannot make it unless we have a functional rail line extending to that space. So that is critical. So I'm answering your question. We need to have transportation systems that allow people to convey their final products to markets in time so that they can make savings and avoid all the damages and the high costs that come with the current transportation system that we have. The state also has to be very, very deliberate. I have heard about conversations talking about, in the past, an airport in Cape Coast, and I asked myself, you don't have one around Bolgawa. Why do we talk of another one here? Yeah. I would rather prefer we go to Teshiman, even though it's close to Kumasi. Teshima is big enough for a small landing strip and take off where people would want to, just stop by and do one or two businesses and continue. We also would have to, as I spoke about already, power systems have to be very stable. You would be amazed. Some of the reasons why people troop to Accra is because they think you have 24/7 electricity here in Accra. Yeah, it's very sad. You go to some of these places, they have just a few hours of power supply to date. We also have, I did some work for Bui Power Authority assessing the acquisition area and how they can bring life to when I spoke to the then CEO about golf course and all, he said, oh, what that? I said, that may be the only reason why somebody would want to fly from Accra to this space to just come, let's say, play golf, and then we attach a hotel to it, and so on and so forth. And your workers need to take their kids to good schools, so we can ask Morningstar Kosombo International to extend some of their franchises, and so on and so forth, and then the places grow up. And so this is how we can do it, but we have to start with transportation, production, and power. Like, these are fundamental to give life to these areas. If you take Hope, for example, it's a very cool, calm area. People call it Oxygen City and so on and so forth. These may be models to, be a safe place for retirees, who would want to make that place their place, climb the mountains, have exercises, we have occasional festivals and so on and so forth. So I'm leading to a point that not all these places have to be classical production centers with industries. Some can be led by leisure, entertainment, and other identities that they are already known for.
Right.
That's right.
You point to this document, and I must say that the framework, the National Spatial Development Framework, is a very comprehensive document.
Yeah,
it was meant to span a period of 20 years.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, from where you sit, do you see it being actioned?
Unfortunately, it's getting late. It's 2015, 2035.
Yeah, 2025.
2020, yeah, okay. And so far, there isn't any indication that we are warming up to get in this place. We know we spent so much of loans to get this document delivered. And so that is why occasionally in every 4-year cycle, the conversation pops up as to whether we would have to continue to go the normal manifesto way, or political parties would have to avert their minds to what blueprints we already have and rather focus on what strategies they have to deliver those efficiently and not create totally new ideas which we already have there. I mean, as I sat in your reception on my way here, I saw Accra Climate Action Document. And it's supposed to expire this year. And we are supposed to have isolated all our wet waste from the dry waste. You don't have all these problems of boiler here and there, because then recycling will be much easier and so on and so forth. And yet, scandalously, I never knew about this document. I'm surprised. I'm saying scandal because I'm supposed to, being where I am, I'm supposed to have chanced on this. But I'm saying it today, this year, and it's expiring this year. So this points to the fact that perhaps we have to have institutions like the National Development Planning Commission assembling all these documents that require action and providing the way for various stakeholders to come in. Remember, it's not only the government is supposed. Governments are supposed to lead the way, and essentially allow the private sector to give it the energy and the push that they need. Of course, with the assurance that there is something in it for them.
You know, you mentioned the framework was done with an International Development Association loan of $8.6 million.
That's right.
And we developed this document 10 years ago.
Sure.
And we've done nothing with it.
We're thinking about it. It's only halfway through, so we'll pick up speed as we go along. But sorry, being slightly facetious here, but I wanted to ask you, gentlemen, because we can very easily get into a doom and gloom conversation with the lack of action despite some planning having been done, exactly the kind of thing that Hayford Mensah Yerakoy is asking about. I was struck by you saying about the pull of electricity, because it's arguable that somewhere like Akusumbu has managed to achieve that. It's not achieved city status, but because of the particular industry that is located in Akusumbu, the VRA, the electricity generation, it has light, it has a great secondary school. People who grew up there or spent time there will tell you that it has a great social life with a swimming club, much now abandoned, I understand, and not well maintained. But I wanted to ask you where you have seen examples, perhaps starting with Mr. Megaibo, of people beginning on however small or larger scale to begin to dial up to that kind of balanced urban planning that can attract young people, that can attract business, and create an ecosystem that works in its own right and flourishes.
This calls for some kind of schemes that identify a target group, look at their peculiar needs, find their earnings, what they will be able to provide to support what kind of arrangement you are doing for them. It is doable. It is just certain challenges and difficulties that is making some of these schemes not come up. I think the state will need to open up and begin to facilitate organizations, businesses to do things than end up sometimes becoming like a competitor.
Right.
So let's say the Ministry of Works and Housing is busily trying to develop houses. What is the business of government doing business? The business of government is to look at the issues the business people are having. They have access to land issue, access to funding issue. You understand? Maybe high cost of importation of building materials. Government should saddle itself in solving these problems and just allow the private sector to move the agenda.
So exactly what Hayford Mensah Yerakoy was asking about, public-private partnership. The government's role being to create the enabling environment. If there are problems with cement prices, how do you break that as a cartel so that construction materials become more affordable? But I want to talk, where have you seen examples of dialogue success? If not in Ghana, maybe somewhere else in Africa.
There is one. So for example, there was something in Ashaman, where a group of people were identified and the land was made available. I think it was the UN Habitat or so.
Right.
Worked this out where the people were already paying some amount monthly. So they came, they put them together, and then they secured the land and then build, I think it's a 3 or 4 story. The idea was that they use the entire base for commercial purpose to get some income to supplement what they would have ideally paid. And then the rooms were also designed in such a way that it was convenient, just ideal for what they need. And they will pay less for what has been developed compared to if they were paying their monthly or daily, because some of them were even paying daily. Yes, people, hawkers, and you know that. People live in the places what they call them container estates. That they pay sometimes 15 cedis or 20 cedis or 30 cedis a day. So if you put all together in a month, you realize that they are paying so much that they don't even realize that they would have even gotten a better deal if they yes. So it is all about working it out. You understand? What we are doing is political, gymnastics, political manifesto, agenda, as my brother put it. We need to have a national conversation. The political party should contest the national idea. So if we are talking about housing, what is this particular party saying about what they will do about housing? Not to come and initiate anything new, but the nation would have initiated a plan and an agenda that all of us are following. Then the political parties will contest how to achieve that. That is where we should go. But if we want to go the way we are going, like housing, a party comes into power, he starts hatching one project or the other. Sometimes they don't even take off, and then 4 years is over. We can just begin to gather some statistics to find out in the 8 years of the immediate past administration, what in terms of numbers have they been able to add on to housing. Let's look at the other 8 years of the previous government, and then let's look at projects that have been uncompleted, were not completed, is still what? Undergoing completion. Our former president Kufuor started affordable housing project. How many years ago did Kufuor leave power? These houses, some of them are still standing there with the structures, decaying, while the building has not even been completed. You see, lack of continuity. We make effort to do things, and then we just leave it somewhere. Another person comes, he doesn't even want to have anything to do with it, and then when he goes away, the other person comes, he wants to revisit. What a mess.
Money down the drain.
Money down the drain. So we need to have that agenda. Government should be focusing on policies. Government should be focusing on regulations. And the government should be focusing on enforcement. Look at my brother here. He's telling you about a document he has chanced on. A document that we have beautifully developed. And it is even expiring before he got to know. Whoa. As for the housing sector, there's so much one can talk about. But today we are not talking about housing. We are talking about, cost of living. So we will leave that. But there's a lot that we can do for housing. As I view it, it is that we are not even thinking about it. We have made the problems overwhelmed us, and we are not consulting also properly. We are not talking to the right people. Sometimes you find certain document that comes out of certain places, and then you ask, hey, how did they come about this agenda? And you want to find out who and who were involved in this consultation, and sometimes it amazes you what you get from the feedback. It's sad. I think as a nation we need to be sincere with ourselves, and we need to prepare and accept that there must be a change. We can't continue to do what we have been doing every day and expect that there will be a change. It won't work. Sometimes we need to take some draconian action. Sometimes we need to hurt some people, hurt some situations, and we must do it. If we don't, we are not ready for that. I think we will be coming to the radio stations, we'll be going to the TV stations, and we'll be talking about the same thing. I have been the executive secretary of Grader since 2009. You add on how many years? If I put in data on how many stakeholder engagements, if I tell you how many times I have met Mohammed here at stakeholder engagement, talking about the same issues.
You have been holding stick for a long time.
I tell you.
We like our issues.
In fact, we like to talk. So at a point I came out with a mantra that we should all forget about NATO. And NATO means no action, talk only. And we should drink a lot of malt every day. You know what malt means?
More action.
More action.
Less talk.
That is what we need in this country. We are talking too much. NATO has taken over everywhere.
Yeah.
You see very, very people who you think they know what is supposed to be. Sometimes they enter the realm of politics and they completely forget their background, their knowledge, their professional. Everything just gets thrown away, and then they end up becoming the real politician that we are. We need to move away from it. Allow professionals to also lead. I was reading and then watching some videos that the Chinese are saying that in the last 100 years, they were governed by lawyers for the first 60 years of the 100 years. And then they realized that no, things were not working well for them. Then they changed from that to engineers for the last 40 years. And that is what has brought that the change that they need. I'm not saying anything to our lawyers. I am just telling them. I'm just bringing up the
you're just sharing someone's experience.
It's a reality. We must accept it. We are not saying that the lawyers cannot do, but I think we have over dwelt and left them to confuse us.
Not to cut, but I just want to check. You see, you are not wrong from what you are saying.
Yeah.
If we pick a document and you are reading, and there is a lawyer reading the document, basically the lawyer is seeking the legalities within that document.
Yeah.
How the law resonates with that document, how he can execute his law within that. And it's different from managing a country.
Yeah.
So what you are saying, you are not wrong.
Yeah.
The same way, if a doctor is reading a document, he's looking at the diagnosis and those things in there.
Yeah.
So you don't give a house project to a doctor. It's a two different thing. So I don't see the reason why maybe because you don't want to step on certain toes, like you said, sometimes you have to step on certain toes.
Yeah.
It is a reality.
Yes.
Kaboom!
The contract governing the housing has to be sorted out. But Jeremiah, just slightly off the point, but asking you, is there a city or a town that you have come across in Ghana? You in Bonkatamansara.
Yes.
So you talked about the specific problems of the Tema area because of the attraction of international workers, how you're priced out of the housing market. Have you come across somewhere in Ghana where you think, we heard from Mohammed Al Hassan Damba earlier on about the potential of growth in 5 cities, 5 or 6 cities, but have you gone somewhere and thought, oh, I'd love to live there, that could work?
Oh wow, so by the grace of God, I've been able to live in these certain areas within Ghana. I've lived in the central region, the western region, Greater Accra, Kumasi, Upper West, somewhere Rara, Pisa, which is in the Uti region.
Okay.
So I've been able to live around areas. But
Would you live somewhere else apart from Accra?
That would have been Wa Central. Wa Central have a very nice place or space to operate. Me, what I said is that if they will agree to me that they were going to give me my leave on maybe from the month of April to the month of 1st June, I would have lived in Wa. The only thing that I find it difficult is to contain the hot season.
Okay.
Aside that, Wa is a very nice place. And the living in Wa is also very okay. So if the Wa airport is well established, that moving to Wa up and down, there's no stress, I don't think a lot of people would like to migrate down south. Because, let me use, if anybody knows Wa, Rural Central to Bama, where the UDS school is, it's not that far. But look at Bama, where the students are even living. There is nothing industrialized within that area. So the knowledge they are acquiring, everybody is seeking those knowledge and running back to down south. But we can send those industries to that side because that's where they are learning it.
So the development systems you talked about, that there has to be linkage between what's being taught and where people can practice the stuff that they're learning.
And the funny thing is that in Ghana here, we are not cultured to ask questions when a leader is talking. Now, politician man's podium and they begin to read so many nice policies to our hearing, very delicious, but sometimes we need to ask them, how well can you execute these things? What is the time frame are you going to execute it? What are the expectations?
Right. You know what? I would like to hear from you, okay? Wherever you live in this country, is the city life worth it? Is it still worth it? Give us a call. It's 020 0009951 or 054 8888 995. Tell us which city you would move to and why. Jeremiah says Wa Central any day except for when it's very hot. No, we'll fix the heat.
The heat is very terrible.
Give us a call and let's hear your thoughts on this. So I'm going to go around quickly while we wait for some of the calls to try and get closing statements from all of our guests. Now, I'll start with you, Hayford. In a minute, beyond the rhetoric of, no action, talk only, and a move to more action, less talk. What do you see as a practical step that, one, young people can take to place pressure on the status quo to get the hand-holding or the partnership they need to be able to make some of these areas compete with Accra?
Well, thank you. I want to speak to young people at this point. From where I sit, even at the University of Ghana alone, currently there's a project that is, which has just been launched at the University of Ghana, and it's called the Incabom Collaborative, Sustainable Food Systems Collaborative, and is a partnership with Mastercard Foundation and a number of institutions in Ghana, the University of Ghana, Asaase, KNUST, UHAS, all over the country. And the focus is to make agri-food systems attractive to young people. There's so much in there, for example, that they are literally hand-holding, supporting, prototyping your ideas, and getting financial support to pilot them and make sure that it is not just one of those, check boxes. Something that we can really, at the end of the day, in the next 10 years, to be able to show that these are businesses that have emerged as a result of such initiatives. And I know similar projects are running all over the country. Government is also saying quite a number. The previous government did a lot in that area, but more often than not, young people are still blinded to these opportunities. I want to just encourage every young person listening to us this morning that yes, the urban centers bring us opportunities, but there are several opportunities that are out there that we believe you should begin to take advantage of. Go back right now to your respective institutions. If you're an alumnus of any institution, go back to their public affairs. You would get so much data on available opportunities. And ask yourself, how can I plug my expertise, my skills into these opportunities and take advantage of them? If you take the budget that was read to us, and can I show you, Rainmaker, if you take the budget for this country the past 10 years and you do year-on-year analysis, you'll be amazed at so much opportunity that have gone unnoticed among young people, all because our eyes have been fixed on something else when we are being pointed to something else. So to start with, take a look at the budget that was just read for 2025 and see the opportunities that are in there and ask yourself, what can we do? And I'm sure if you need help, just walk to any university, I'm sure when it comes to Asaase, you would get somebody to talk to who would point you to some of us or any of your resource persons to guide these young people. We are committed to supporting the development and mentoring and coaching of young people to make the best out of the opportunity. Because look, I believe all we need is 10 successful young entrepreneurs, and the narrative can change easily. It takes one good businessman to change narratives. And if we can, in the next 5 to 10 years, build 10 successful business guys who we can be sure can be the next Mark Zuckerberg and the likes, right from Ghana, I'm sure our story will change. Because our whole country, the entire country, is our GDP. I mean, our GDP is less than somebody's company. And so if we have 10 people building 10 times the national GDP, I can be sure Ghana will have a long way to go. And so government must also begin to decentralize some of these operations. As it is now, it is more the MMDAs that you find there who in themselves don't have what it takes to run. And so usually you find that there are constraints. Government must be intentional in trying to push some of its activities. I mean, why can't we put the Ministry of Food and Agriculture in a rural area? Why should it be in Accra? We should possibly think about relocating the Ministry of Food and Agriculture. So if you are the minister, you're actually very close to where the action is taking place. It should be somewhere in Nigeria or somewhere. So that we know, people know that, oh, I want to do farming. The time it takes to get here is so close. I can liaise with my minister. I can get in touch with the experts. Otherwise, all of us will have to travel so many kilometers to come and access basic services, and that doesn't help anybody. So I think for me, my passion is the young people. Let us see what we can do for them. Let them go and start and look at the skill set that they have.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about, white collar job anymore. We've moved away from that. Look at what you can do and what competencies you lack, and begin to upskill yourself to fit within the global discussion. Because if you have what it takes to provide a service to anybody in any part of the world, you don't need to be in traffic for 3 hours, 6 hours every day, because you are going to be paid 3,500 or 4,000.
Fantastic. Thanks very much for those insightful closing thoughts. I'm going to come to Samuel. Yes. It's when you know two brothers, you confuse them. So Samuel,
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of housing, or generally managing the cost of living, what interventions do you think the state could do in the short term to ease the burden on the Ghanaian?
I will probably want to just go back to what I've said. I think our policy direction might not be right. I think we've developed some policies, but it is not driving anything because it has become paperwork lying on the shelf. It's not actionable. So we need to fix that. Then we also have to ensure that regulation works. In an environment where there's regulation, there is sanity. And it makes businesses flourish in a space where he can be assured of what he's doing, or in case there's even a problem, he knows where to go. So we need to look at our regulation. And then also enforcement is very key. You cannot have a policy and a regulation and it is not being enforced. Leaving people to live and do what they want to do, it doesn't bring competitiveness to the table, and we need to do that. Then also we should punish non-compliance. We need to be ready to punish non-compliance. If you have the regulation and enforcement is in place and you are not punishing people who are not complying, you give room for what we are seeing. When we are not able to, or you are not effectively even punishing, you can also institute a reward system for those who are doing what is right, to make it possible for people to emulate those people who are doing right and are being rewarded. Then we must also have systems in place. One of the problems we have is lack of systems. In an environment where everybody is operating how he likes, there are no boundaries, open-ended, free for all. We need to have systems. And then also schemes. Schemes are key. When Madam was talking about if we can identify an area, we can identify a system where something has been provided, it is schemes that work. If you know a target group, know their target income, you know where what we are doing with them, if it's teachers, if it's doctors, and you know all this, information, it helps you to institute something that becomes workable. Then you can work it with a banking institution. You understand? Then our earnings, when it comes to housing, one of the major problems is our earnings. You can come up with the best of schemes, best of everything. When the people's income is extremely low, beyond what it is, then we must just do social housing and say government has built these houses, it's available for those who are, vulnerable. And then all of us become vulnerable. Me, myself, and Mohammed, we can become vulnerable under the circumstance and go and grab some. So we need to fix those as well. And then I will plead with our youth. They shouldn't think of today. They should think of the future. And in that case, they should be wary of people they themselves elect as leaders. It is one major area that we are not watching. We are following politicians who in today will give you some stipends or take something from their wallet and put it before you, and then you go and enjoy. But you need to look at the future so that you elect people that have that leadership. Leaders are not born. Me, I disagree. Leaders, you make them. If you say leaders are born, then why are we here? Let's go and born them and then put them at the places and let them work and let's see. So our youth should understand that they need to bring up people or elect people to lead us, to take us somewhere. Not for them to come and share money to you today. You go and enjoy some fried rice on some takeaway pack. The next moment you are hungry again, and you are going to knock at their doorstep. These are not leaders. So I think for the sake of time, I will leave it here.
Okay.
Allow my other colleagues to add.
Fantastic. Alhassan?
Yes, I would say that we should speed up on implementing what we already have. We all spoke about food expense. The blueprint we have says Accra should have a food shed which is within a 50-kilometer radius, and so we're talking of Dodo area up to Bourgeois and all of this should have them preserved. Limited construction, more agric, but that takes strict government policy to let the local governments there understand that you do not need to compete with Tema, Mokatamaso, AMA in terms of income from real estate. Your focus should be agric, animal farming, and so on and so forth, so that we can have food coming fresh to Accra, less transport costs, and then all these costs would be driven down further.
Fantastic point. Let me just interrupt a moment. I think we have a caller on the line. Let's take their points quickly. Mahama is on the line from Ashaiman, and then we'll talk to Michelle as well. Mahama, good morning.
Good morning, guys.
Thanks for the call. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I was just thinking about the encouragement of people to take opportunities outside the bigger commercial cities. But the practicality of taking up opportunities has to do with frameworks that are in place or are not in place. For instance, what is the nature of our land tenure system now? Does government really have a hold on tenure of land? How are lands managed? We are hearing of stories of our brothers from the diaspora who have come and acquired lands and have run into problems. So even if I wanted to go into agriculture, what is the ease of acquiring land? What's the ease of acquiring land? Secondly, if we look at costs, let me just digress a bit, of living. If you take rent, for instance, we have a rent law that is very specific. Are we enforcing it? Things that could bring down pressure on budgets. So we have a realtor who is with us in the studio that people keep charging advance fees of up to 2 years. What does the law say? So we have things in place that are not being enforced. And the system itself fights itself. And that makes people want to choose the easy way out. So rather than people take the risk and go out there with a very high chance of failure or running into problems. So I think it comes back to the issue of policy inconsistencies and governments always wanting to be seen to be doing something. So they launch big projects, a big agricultural push. We are giving 100 million into agriculture. What is different from planting for foods? What are the learnings from there? What have we learned? What are the issues there? Is it what is informing a big push into agriculture? So I think we have to take a step back and rather do a bottom-up approach instead of working from the top and asking people to sign up. Have a good morning.
Thank you very much, Mahama, for that call. Michelle is on the line as well. Michelle, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Sorry for keeping you waiting. Let's hear your thoughts.
Good morning, and I'm very happy for this program, the topic that you guys are discussing this morning. And let me tackle the housing issue. I mean, the rent issue in our country now, especially in Accra. So you could see that, as my colleague said right away, we should have something, a regulatory something that will make sure that if you are going to rent, Because now, if you are looking for a place to rent now, if you have to see an agent, you need to take his percentage before you go to the landlord. They say moving fee. They are making living in Accra, maybe Ghana, difficult for us. You know, now for instance, how much do I earn for a month? And if I want to go and rent, in a single room is now 300 to 400. And if you are going for it, they say they want 2 years advance. You see? So the government needs to do something. It should put some measures so that everybody can live with, I mean, as average person in Ghana, you can afford to rent a place that you can live with your family. And secondly, talking about our agriculture, food issue in Ghana now, Accra, especially to go for food. You know, it's very high. And if you want to cook in the house, look at the expenses that it goes back. One of your colleagues said something that why the agriculture ministry or something will not be at the villages and it's here in Accra. You see, they should know of what, I mean, the government should put measures in all these places so that they can make things easier for us to live there. Because from now look at it. Every youth wanted to leave this country to go and get greener pasture somewhere, which is very bad. We have everything here. Why are we still struggling here? So the small I can also say is this, and I think the topic that you guys brought this morning, I'm very happy with it, and keep up doing the good job for Ghana. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Michelle, for your thoughts and your insight. It's been a great conversation, but so I interrupted. So 1 minute to wrap up.
Yes, so we need to get back and get these things fixed. We have all the plans for our transport infrastructure, the integration aspect from water crossing to rural roads to highways and all of these. Let's just get to them, and that I think would open up the country for people to want to be comfortably living in other areas other than Accra. Like you said, I was in Wa briefly. It was fantastic because of living low. My next is Sunyai, for example, except that the last time I went, 4 cities couldn't buy me mutuo. Like 4 cities bought me mutuo in 2022, mutuo and meat. Yes. But now last year it just couldn't at all, and so on and so forth. So I think there is opportunity for people. It's not everybody who wants to live this high life. I mean, they just want something reasonable. Once they can feed themselves, house themselves minimally, and go about their business, I'm sure that people would want to. Yeah, so these are my concluding remarks. Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. Super grateful for joining this important conversation and sharing generously your insight and your lived experience. Jeremiah John Aka is an optician, health promotion officer at Bone Hospital. We were also joined on